Yo, 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 it's the kid, 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 it's the kid. Trying to live, trying to exist, trying to stay alive, trying to do my thing, man. Welcome here for another of these shows. I know I say it's nightly, but obviously, Monday is the only time in which we don't really ride with this, because of so many other shows happening on Monday. So hopefully everyone is doing good. Everyone is doing fine. I've got my Jack Daniels here, but I don't know if they want to drink that or not. So I've got my glass of water here because we're going to go in, okay? Because I think real talk, we try and bring real talk to you, and I'm trying to bring on real talk. So I thought for this heavy topic, for this huge heavy topic that we're going to go in on, I thought I had to bring your boy, my partner in crime, my talking tactics aficionado, the one, the only, Mr. Daniel Tilloch, or Danny T. Daniel Tilloch or Danny T. What do you want to be called?
I mean, I prefer what my mom called me. So Daniel, but the just quickly, the thing with Danny is I don't like it because it, like, some people spell it Dani.
Yeah, that's a chick's name.
Yeah, and I just don't like Danny. It just sounds weird. But I know in England people like Danny, Frankie, Willie. No. It's like a thing. So,
but no. Basically, for me, I like giving people nicknames. Literally, almost even all of my friends. I give almost all of my friends nicknames. I just love, like, all of my friends I've known. They all have like nicknames that I give them. So this is not like an English thing. Just like I just like giving guys nicknames and so forth. So I just thought, yeah, Daniel Tilloch, that's like your business suits and tie. Danny T is that dude. Danny T is that dude that just comes from just gives a little bit of an edge,
go with DT if you must.
But then there's that other dude called DT from AFTV. So it's like,
fuck that guy. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't say that.
Oh damn! Yeah, well, there goes my monetization, man. So,
oh god, see,
who cares? So, I think people have sort of been enjoying the whole Real Talk series that I've sort of been doing, where covering some heavy topics and so forth. And I've always wanted to do this topic with racism, and I felt that, rather than doing it on my own, I should bring my fellow brother on here because, this is stuff that we talk about a lot. And, Mr. Daniel Tilloch is extremely well-read and extremely well-versed in this topic specifically. So we're going to jump off, man. Okay. We're going to jump off with our first thing, which is, of course, is racism. Trying to understand the core of racism and so forth, and whether
what's the genesis of this conversation for you? Like, why do you want to talk about this? I guess is where I want to start with you.
Okay, all right. So this is one of the things that I always think about all the time and so forth. So obviously, doing the whole football thing and everything, I think that there's some rustling coming from your area, so maybe if I mute you when you're not talking.
Am I good?
Okay, good. Yeah, because I think you were rustling in the background there.
It's a water bottle. Sorry.
Okay, cool. So it's basically, the thing though is, say, look, I'm always go in on this topic based on just my like my dealings with it and so forth. So when I just dropped a few of the Real Talk videos, on this channel, if you guys said, yo man, like, yeah man, I want you to talk about racism, because a lot of guys, that's following me are black, so based on them saying about their experiences and so forth, I thought, you know what, let's just have a topic and just chew down and talk about this whole thing of racism, which is something that we're always having to deal with. And I wanted just to give my real view on it. Mm-hmm. So it's right there, set in stone. This is Double H's view on racism, and this is just my 5 cents on it. Rather than having sound bites on Twitter, little lines here in a video, let me just dedicate fully to say, this is where I stand on it. This is fully where I stand on it. So yeah, that was sort of my genesis of the whole thing, where, like, let me try and bring this through, man. Okay, I think. Oh, damn. Okay, so super chat here from Mr. Kalunda says, it's built on white supremacy. It won't change. We need our own black institutions. Whites haven't changed for the last 500 years. Damn. Okay. We'll get there, Dory. We'll get there. So look, man.
Kicking off strong.
So basically, look, I think to start off with, I put out the question saying that, well, can racism ever end? Can we ever live in a world where we are all in one harmony, where racism doesn't exist? And I said, and my simple answer to that is no. We'll obviously get to why, but my simple answer is no, that even if you go 100 years into the future, 200 years into the future, as long as human beings exist, racism in some form or another will always exist. I always say the thing about racism is that it never dies, it evolves. It just evolves, So wherever we are within society, technologically or so forth, some form of racism will exist. So 100 years into the future, if human beings are still around, have not been taken over by machines, there will be some kind of racism that exists. Because as human beings, that's just how we operate. Things that are different, whether it's your color, your creed, your religion, your height, your complexion, how you look like, we will always try and label and compartmentalize people and so forth, So because again, when I was young, I had a naive view that, oh, no, look, man, let me just believe in people and so forth, and I don't think people should be racist, I think that we can come together as one. Kumbaya, when I thought I was a leftist liberal and so forth. Older me and so forth has come to realize that they're just people that won't change. I don't give a damn about changing a racist's view. I don't care about that. That's not my fight, and so forth. I am not here to try and say, let me go to this racist person, this racist dude, and change his view towards something. Let me go to this racist white dude or racist Middle Eastern dude or racist whatever dude and change the view. The view can't change because it's embedded. The view of the black man and where he is within society, it is something that has been embedded for hundreds and hundreds of years. And even if you bring in hip hop or rap or so forth, that stereotype, that archetype of black is evil, white is good, white is better, black is bad, it will always be there. Even for me, just imagine this, and I want to, and then I'll kick it over to Daniel for this. Even for me as a Nigerian dude from living in Nigeria, where there were only black people in Nigeria. So remember, I can tell you the first time I ever saw a white person in real life. I remember I was probably about 6 or 7 years old, and I thought these guys were like aliens. I was like, wait, these guys they turn red. Look at their skin and so forth. So that is how I had hardly any interaction with white people. But even as a Nigerian guy living in Nigeria, where everyone was black, I did not see a white person until I was 5 years old. Even I had the whole thing of like, white is better, black is bad. I even remember one time when I was about 3 years old, and I thought that, oh, maybe I'm white or so forth, because I had this image watching films and so forth that white is just better, black can't be as good as white. That was just the image that was shone upon me. A black guy living in Nigeria that had lived with no proximity to white people. So that's archetype of the view of what is black in society, white being good, black being bad, white being beautiful, black being ugly. That is just something that has been fully embedded and so forth. So we can bring the whole black is beautiful, black is this, black is that. Even to this day, you have skin bleaching as well. You have black people trying to acquiesce to white people. We want to call them cute coons, we want to call them Uncle Toms, we want to call them sellouts. It still happens to this day right now. So the kind of utopia of, hey, we'll all get along together, tra-la-la-la-la, that's never happening. It's never happening. So any person trying to fight that fight, you're fighting a losing fight. You have to now step back and be realistic of how the real world works and how human beings work, and understand how human society works and how it originates. Once you understand the reality of human society and the human psyche, then you will know where you should put your efforts with regards to this fight for not only racism but of self-identity within yourself. So Daniel, I'll kick it to you, man. So first of all, so where do you stand with regards to, can we reach a point where there's no racism anymore? We can come together as one.
Okay, so before we start, we need to define racism. Okay, so if you look, I'm sure in the Webster's dictionary, it's probably like prejudice or discrimination based on someone's skin color or phenotype or whatever the case may be. So if you just look at it, can you do like a share screen and look up
Yeah.
like racism on Google for like the people?
Okay.
So like because there's multiple definitions of what racism is and isn't. So
All right.
let's start with the first
Let me-
version before we get deep into the whole sociological aspect of it.
Yeah, okay, so here we have it. Because I was, even before reading this, I've always defined racism as you are against a race.
Mhm.
So there is, so your actions and so forth is being done to be against the race. So there's a difference between racism and ignorance, or even racism or prejudice.
But see, this if you definition in particular of prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism, Daniel, directly against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior, it's quite difficult to remove prejudice, discrimination, and antagonism from just the general sentiment. Even my dad always talks about this. It's like even in Africa, where everyone is black, you still find people who discriminate against each other based on whether it be tribe or language or religion or whatever the case may be. If you go
or even skin tone.
Yeah, if you go, even white people have their own differences. If you go to like Eastern Europe, there's a reason the Soviet Union or Yugoslavia and all that stuff broke up, because people are prejudiced, discriminatory, and antagonistic against each other. So that definition is obviously is written by white people. And I think it was Huey Newton that said power is the ability to define phenomena and have it act in a desired manner, I think. So white people have the power in that sense to define words how they want to define them. From what I was taught in sociology class, and from what I've read from critical race theory, I think by Derek Bell and other people, racism, the way I view it, is it's a power dynamic. So it's the ability of one group of people to suppress or withhold the advancement of other people. So there has to be a power element. So because when you lump in discrimination, prejudice, antagonism, that doesn't really account for the full weight of what white supremacy entails. White supremacy isn't just, like, you're black, I don't like you. It's the concerted, calculated effort to suppress a group of people down to keep you on top. And black people can be discriminatory against white people, but what power is there behind it? Maybe if you go to particular places around the world, like maybe if you go to South Africa, for instance,
wait, pause on that point, because you made a great point. You made a great point. I want you just to expand on that point, because many people always say that, oh wait, white people can be racist. Sorry, black people can be racist to white people as well. So you can't be hypocritical. But you hit on a very key point that I want you to expand upon, which is you defining what racism is and why white people can't be racist to black people based on the lack of a power element that we have that whites don't have. So just expand on that.
Well, see, I'm building, I think. So, like in a place like South Africa, for instance, I would say black people can be racist against white people in some ways because they are the majority. In theory, we can talk about neo-colonialism and things like that later. But in theory, they're the majority in government. They have the prime minister, etc. And in some ways, yeah, you can be racist against white people in particular areas. But I think what I don't want to get stuck in is just the Western paradigm of black people in America and black people in the UK are the only black people, so black people can't be racist. If we want to just make it in the American context, then yes. And that's generally where people get stuck in, is that American mind frame. But where I'm going is you can't get rid of racism because racism is a power dynamic. And the reason that white people have to be racist, if we go to someone like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and the ISIS papers.
Yeah, and the what papers?
The ISIS papers. It was a book that she wrote. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing was I believe she was a sociologist, could have been a psychologist as well. She was a professor who passed, I think, in 2016 or 17, but she was quite known in the kind of black political radical sphere in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. And she wrote a book called The ISIS Papers before ISIS became a thing in the Middle East or what have you. And she wrote about white genetic survival, which is her idea for like why racism is like it is. So it's the notion that if a black man sleeps with a black woman, no, if a black man sleeps with a white woman or vice versa, or any combination of the four, and there's a black person involved, the child now becomes black. So in theory, because the black gene is dominant, not in some weird way, but just genetically
or biologically,
just how the child's nose will look, how the child's lips will look, how the child's hair will be, those kinds of things. White people understand that their survival is rooted in keeping white people with white people. Otherwise, there won't be white people left. And once you look at race from the dynamic of we need to suppress a group of people, and racism becomes a power dynamic, it becomes very difficult to remove something that could eliminate a whole race of people, and they know it. So that's where I was building towards.
Okay, so since you've just sort of laid that down, then let's then go a bit further then to the races that sort of exists now and maybe moving forward. So, simple question then: do you feel that we as a society can get to a place where there isn't any kind of form of racism? Or you feel like, because again, as I said, racism for me will always exist. It has to exist. It will always exist. And also, just also in further as well, is like, again, you look at the power structure and so forth. Because I've always said that white men rule the world, white women control the world, because white women control men. So I think that the power that whites have is like, this is their world. They created this world, and from the slave owners and the empires, they laid a foundation of how they have sipped their hands into the whole world. I speak English because of the British Empire. Manny speaks French because of the French Empire. A William Carvalho or so forth speaks Portuguese because of the Portuguese. Sorry, a guy in what's the name of that country?
Angola.
Oh, a guy in Mozambique, he speaks some Portuguese because of the Portuguese Empire. Or a guy in Angola speaks Portuguese because of the Portuguese Empire. So they have built such a supremacy and empire that's lasted so long that even if those empires don't exist, you still see the effects of those empire either tangibly or intangibly in terms of psychologically as well. So to destroy that, I don't even know how you even destroy that to begin with, because the greatest victory of these empires was psychological. It wasn't physical. It was psychological. So the psychological thing and the thing of self-hate and so forth of these, because again, you have like the pyramid, whites at the top, blacks at the bottom. Then you have Arabs, Chinese, Asians, all the guys in the middle. See, all those guys in the middle, they all want to be white. That's why whenever you look at anime or so forth, all of the characters look white. They don't even look Japanese. They all look white because of the obsession of the guys in the middle wanting to acquiesce to white, which is at the pyramid seen as the best and what you strive for. So it's the existence of the psychological prison is why racism can't be destroyed.
Well, what we have to ask ourselves is why was race created? Because race wasn't always a thing.
Oh yeah.
Race started to be a thing in around like the 1400s or 1500s. If you listen to like if you read books like the history books that they give you, it was around like 1400, 1500, right? Why? Because around that time, that's when what I think if I'm remembering things correctly.
Wait, just real quick. Zach, basically, just this just a quick tidbit. Whenever Daniel is about to go in on some stuff, he always does like a little laugh before he starts to go on some stuff. I've just sort of noticed that, but yeah, go on.
Okay, so I think Mansa Musa. Now I don't know if we're gonna blame Mansa Musa here, but we might. So he was the emperor of the Mali Empire in like the 1300s and 1400s, somewhere around there, and he's the richest man ever, right? Like if you adjust for inflation and all that stuff, this guy was the richest man who ever lived. Mansa Musa, I think the first, could be the second. And what this guy did, he was Muslim.
Wait, Daniel, I think I'm still hearing like sort of rustling because it's sort of like
it's this water bottle, man. I'm sorry. And I'm laying down, man. I'm recovering from my nap, so give me like 10 minutes, and I'll be back in it. But Mansa Musa the first, he goes on pilgrimage, so he's going from the Mali Empire to Mecca, so he can do his Hajj, right? And being the richest guy in the world and needing to complete things in like the 5 pillars of Islam, that way he can go to heaven or what have you. During his pilgrimage, he gives out gold and just trinkets and everything. Like I think he went to Alexandria in Egypt and he disrupted the gold market for like years because of the amount of gold that he gave away for free. So he like ruined the economy. And he went to Mecca, but people in Egypt were like, yo, there's this dude in Mali. We don't know where this guy came from, how much money this guy has. We don't know who this guy is. Got gold. And the message spread from the 1400s that, yo, there's some shit in Africa you might want to go check out. So now we have the European countries now investigating and like, yo, what's going on? What's going on in Africa? So then they send their people to West Africa, and that begins the slave trade, essentially, because white people had to go figure out where this guy was getting all this gold from. And you have white people fighting amongst themselves for thousands of years, creating kind of weapons of war, guns, better military equipment, and all that kind of stuff. So they come to Africa, and it's light work, pretty much. But now we have to create race. Why? Because now we have to justify the enslavement of a whole group. How do we do that? Well, they have to be inferior in some way. Like what happens when you go to a place like Egypt and you see the noses on the Sphinx and the statues and all that kind of stuff? It's like, well, these guys did kind of create society in some ways. Like the Greeks went to Egypt in order to learn how to do what they did. Even Aristotle and all those guys, if you go read those writings, like they knew, like black people created these civilizations. But how do we justify them being enslaved? Because deep down, they always knew it was wrong. Well, they're not human. They're monkeys. They're subhuman. They're apes. They're not quite human. So we can do with them what we want. So that's why you need the power dynamic. Because if you actually make black people equal, then you really have to wrestle with the idea of who started all this stuff. Because even in our history classes today, where does it start? They might teach you a little bit about Egypt, but really it goes from Greece to Rome to the Enlightenment, industrial age, technological age, and now we're in 2020. But what happened before, let's say 1400s, or even if we want to take it to the BCs, what happened like 3000 BC? If they really taught history the right way, then you'd have to reckon with the idea of who started all this stuff. Where did all of these things come from? And highlights the kind of barbarity of what that slave trade was and is. So when you say, can you get rid of racism, or just you would have to get rid of race, and the die is cast. You know, once you in it's like the flu. At one point, the flu didn't exist, but somebody got sick one time with whatever influenza A or B or what have you. It spread, and now it's just something we have to deal with. Can you get rid of the flu? No, you can treat it. You can give people medicine and give them fluids and tell them to rest and all that kind of stuff. But the flu's out here, bro. And I tend to feel like race and racism is the same way. Once you inject the idea that you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're Indian, you're... Isn't there another one?
Middle Eastern, Chinese.
Middle Eastern, yeah. Once you inject that into people's consciousness and you make them aware of it, you can't really retreat on that.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Like, this is something that a discussion I had with my mom of why, again, this is just me on my whole liberal stuff years ago of like, wait, why should we even have a race? Why can't we all be together? Because at the end of the day, we all are all connected because we all came from one mother, father, or so forth. So really, we're all connected and we're all related to at some point. But my mom made a very good point that we are different culturally. You have to accept the difference culturally. So the thing is, now, once you just accept the difference that we have culturally, why then do you not have to now take that as hate? So for example, again, some of my best friends are white, but I know, look, man, I'm not like these dudes. You know, just from a cultural standpoint of how I grew up, the kinds of values I have, the way I perceive the world is very Nigerian and African, specifically like West Africa. More so, you know. So, and that is very different from my friend who grew up with a English stroke Arabic background, or my friend who grew up with a very English countryside background, you know. So, because obviously I'm not taking this whole thing to this whole culture thing, because again, it's like we're not trying to say to a point where you see that the caste has already died. So you're not saying that now
the die is already cast.
Sorry, the die is already cast. The cat has already died. So the die is already cast. So basically, you are pretty much saying that we've now reached a point of no return. That it's an impossibility for there to ever be a world where no racism exists at any point.
That's a question. Yeah. I mean, it has to be. Otherwise, a lot of things in society fall apart.
But so it has to be based on the power structure?
Yes. Like you can't divorce racism from power, which is why I wanted to define what racism was in the beginning. If you say racism is prejudice,
wait. Let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I'm just throwing out there, 100 years into the future, the white race is sort of dying out. More and more people are getting mixed. So the world is more global. So the dominant quote unquote race is mixed, a mix of things, black, white, black, Asian, all that kind of stuff. And the white race are now like a minority. Is there still racism? Because there will now be a new quote unquote racial demographic that will now have a power structure and implement the things that those white empires and slave masters did.
I don't understand what you're asking. Can you say it again, please?
So let's say we go 100 years into the future. So we've now established that the white people, they are the power structure.
Okay.
They're the guys at the top of the pyramid. So I'm just creating a scenario. 100 years into the future.
Yep.
The white race are now a minority.
Okay. But white people are a minority right now.
But I'm saying I'm going in an even extreme case. They are a serious minority where most of America, basically, for example, in America, the majority is now mixed. Eastern Europe, the majority is now mixed. So throughout all of these countries, whether it's a France, it's a Portugal, it's a Spain, it's an England, it's an America, the predominant race is mixed. So white
Okay.
people are a serious minority, almost let's say to the extent of like the Aborigines. So, or even let me go even further to the extent of let's say the Native Americans. So if that then happens, is there does racism now still exist because a new race?
Yes, because what you've done is you've just replaced white people with. There's a book by Franz Fanon. I think it's called White Faces, Black Masks, or is it Black Faces, White Masks? It's basically like it's a book on neo-colonialism, basically, and it just says basically, you know, you can remove the white people from a situation, but if the people have still been indoctrinated with white supremacy or just basically black inferiority, whichever way you want to put it, what have you basically done? You haven't accomplished that much, right? So let's say you look at a president of, I don't know, Ivory Coast in like the 1970s or whatever. I think his name was Boigny. Yeah, he was black, but at the end of the day, he had a white mind. And a lot of the things he did, where he helped remove Thomas Sankara from Burkina Faso and all these kinds of things. Like, if you were really down with African people in that way, you wouldn't have done something like that. But because you wanted to get a token from France, from like, yeah, good boy, you helped assassinate one of the greatest leaders the African continent has ever seen, right? Now, I say that to say, just because you remove white people doesn't mean you remove white supremacy. Even because you don't need white people right now in Africa to have, white Jesus on the wall or all these types of different things, because
It's the psychological war. The psychological
exactly, because the seed's already planted. So, you make America a majority mixed race people, you're just gonna have mixed race people who just think black people are still inferior. You're still gonna have that. It's even in South Africa, like the coloreds. They there's white people, there's black people, and then there's this buffer group in between of coloreds who are basically black but don't want to accept they're black. And that whole idea of, yeah, you can be somewhat black or you can be somewhat white, but at the end of it, what's inside your brain, So you say, oh, we've reduced the white population by 90%. Okay, but what's in the people's mind? Do they still think black is inferior? Is there still colorism that's inherent in black people no matter what? So yeah, we make 20 million new mixed race babies. Cool. What are you teaching them? Do they still accept the fact that because they're closer to white, that they're better? So you've just replaced white people with mixed race people.
No, and I think that is again why we're now getting towards the crux of this whole thing of.
Because let it be told, most mixed race people are coons.
Oh, wait, say again? What?
Let it be like, okay, it's the idea that like. I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal here, that I've like broken the mold, but you have to think about it. So most mixed race people they have one white parent, one black parent. If we're looking at it just from the black-white paradigm, obviously there are different mixes all around the world, but if we're just dealing with black and white, we can deal with that. So you have one white parent, one black parent. If that black parent was conscious, do you think they ever would have had sex with a white person to begin with in that sense? Maybe not. Now, maybe there are some, I don't know, unicorns out here who are so woke. I can have sex with a white woman and still like have pride for myself or not hate myself in that way. But I think that's pretty rare in some cases. Like, I think most people do it and then afterwards, like when they get older, they might have like a realization. But so you have a white person and a black person who isn't conscious really having a kid. What are they teaching the kids? Because basically you have you have a non-conscious black person and a white woman, or a white man and a black lady who's not too conscious. So what is this baby being taught at home?
And let me even go even further. Let me even go even further than that, because again,
which is why I have a problem when I hear people say, and you've said it before, like, "Yo, you can solve the world by having more mixed race children." No.
No. Okay. Let me
because what are the mixed race babies being taught, man? Go ahead.
No. Again, so let me even back up and just explain that, because again, it was a conversation that me and my brother were sort of having like years ago, which is that if we now, this is just where things get so complicated. So basically, our conversation was, all right, if you now have mixed race people,
yes,
half black, half white, then it deconstructs and destroys the whole element of race. I'm getting there. Let me walk. So it destroys this whole element of race, because I have always believed and have stood on the hill of, this dude isn't black or white. You can't label them. They're half black, they're half white. So you saying, oh no, they're black, the one drop rule. No. I'm on that scientific biological thing. They're half black, half white. So therefore your whole label of race and so forth is stupid and has been debunked by this mixed race child who is 50% black, 50% white. So you can't give them one label, which you're so desperate to give them. But as we now go deeper and so forth, what's inside the minds of these mixed race people? Because for a lot of these mixed race people, they are confused. they're living a life of conflict. And so many mixed race people that I've met, they are so much of like black, yeah, pro-black. A lot of mixed race people, they are more pro-black than blacks. And why do they do that?
I don't know. I don't know about that.
Wait, but let me explain. It's surface, face value. What you see and how they operate. Sean King, Angela Rye, Amanda Seales, that dude from
Angela Rye is black, I think. By the way,
okay, but yeah. Amanda Seales, Sean King, and this other dude, this guy who did this big speech on BTF. I forgot what his name is called.
Jesse Williams.
Jesse Williams, thank you, Jesse Williams. So much of these mixed race guys, they are so much on this whole pro-black, and that comes from a confusion and a desperation to fit in, and a sort of anger that, why am I being treated black like this? So it is a confusion of, I've been treated black, I've received this racism of being a black person, but I have this relationship with my white mother who looks white. What the hell? I'm confused. White mother, I'm treated black. I'm still throwing all these names. So that's all gets into a crescendo of, screw this. I'm going to fight for blacks right now, and I'm going to go even harder and more passionate than even the guys who are 100% black, who are cooling.
Okay. This is what I think, and I can kind of speak to this as I live the experience, right? I'm conscious of race from the moment I'm 3, from the moment I'm 4. So you say, I only met a white person when I was 6 or 7. They seemed like aliens. that whole thing. When I look at my parents, I'm thinking like, okay, this doesn't match. Do you know like the matching card games that they give you, where like you lay out all of the cards, you flip one over, it's a giraffe, you flip the next one over, it's a lion. That's not a match, so you got to flip them back and you got to find the lion and the lion, the elephant and the elephant, the hippopotamus and the hippopotamus. Like you got to find these matching cards. Society brainwashes you to put things in pairs, like that goes with that, this goes with that, the forks go with the fork, the spoons go with the spoons, the knives go with the knives, the square peg goes in the square hole, the round peg goes in the round hole. So you're being taught that in school. And by the time I'm like 4 or 5, I'm like, bro, we don't match. Like my family doesn't match. Like my brother and I match, but you two don't match. So what is that? And what am I?
And you knew this when you were, 4 or 3?
Yeah. And I think this is kind of like the mixed race quandary in some ways. And obviously, I think some people go way left, some people go way right. Maybe I've gone way right. I don't know. But I think I was raised to go right, even from my white mother. But that's a different conversation for a different day. But
Yeah.
like, you're questioning everything from the moment that you realize that your parents don't look the same way. And once you start questioning things, that leaves the door open to now, what is race? What is racism? And I think a lot of mixed race people do have some sort of inkling, maybe, of like what's going on here. But whether or not they actually develop it and they do the reading and they actually, put in the time basically to really sit down and think about it, I'm not sure. So, and this is another element. But once we include the idea of colorism, right, in the Black community, and then we look at like, let's just take like a couple leaders, right? So we have like a Barack Obama figure, right? Light skin. We have a Malcolm X figure, light skin. We have Martin Luther King, not quite dark skin, but still like brown skin. Like, there's always this idea of like, even like an Adam Clayton Powell or somebody like that, There's just like, why are the spokespeople for Black people? Why do they tend to be brown/light skin? Why is that? It's like the face of Black people are always like, who's the last dark skinned representative of Black people that you can think of? It's pretty. You can't. There aren't that many, I don't think, in like history. Maybe you could come up with somebody like Fred Hampton or somebody, but he was cut down before he could actually advance. So I do think the face that they put out there is like the Angela Rise or like those kinds of shade of people, which maybe skews your perception of just how many people are out here. You know what I mean? Just really speaking on these things, because the people that are put to the forefront all tend to look a particular way.
I want to just take a few of these comments our guys are bringing. It says that so white people could go extinct and you'd still say racism exists. Yeah.
Put it this way. I mean, if it depending on the definition, right? For all intent and purpose, white people were extinct in Rwanda in the 1990s. I'm not quite sure how many white people lived in Rwanda in the 1990s. What happened? The Hutus and the Tutsis still found a way that's like, yo, let's beef. And millions of people died based on tribal difference. In part set up because of the way that the Belgians, I believe, left Rwanda. And they left one tribe on top, one tribe on the bottom, and that started a ball that never really stopped, right? So you have, put it this way, Double H and I always talk about the map and like who drew the map. If white people went, if you went Thanos right now and you clicked and all white people disappeared from Earth. We don't want that. We're not encouraging that. We're just saying, if it happened, you think Black people are going to redraw the maps? Probably not. They're going to keep the maps the same way. Maybe like in 200 years or so, hey, let's move a line here, let's move a line there. But the fact of the matter is the maps will still look the same. So then you're still going to have in Nigeria North v South beef. That's not going to go away because that's Christianity against Islam. You're still going to have Igbo land beef against Yoruba, perhaps, or something like that. Like, there's still going to be those inherent beefs that are based on things that happened without Black people having a say, necessarily. Like, nobody decided that Nigeria was going to look like that. It was just some British dude just drew a line.
Oh, no. Basically, like the Hausa and Yoruba kind of beef and war was instigated by the British Empire, because the British Empire left Nigeria in a state in which those tribes went to war with each other, which was actually confirmed by a old English kind of like historian dude. So they sowed the seeds for the conflicts that still happen today, right now.
Right. We haven't even, like, we're just focusing on the white element. That's not even including what China's doing right now, which is probably going to backfire on them. That's not including what China's doing. I read something like the Chinese took a port in Kingston, Jamaica recently. Like, they own more than 50% of the port that used to belong to the government. So That's not even including that kind of thing that we haven't even discussed. So, I mean,
No, no,
look,
no. And you know what I've always found,
go ahead.
especially today, right now, the people in the middle of the pyramid are more racist than the whites at the top. That's what I found. As in, I've probably experienced more racism from either Chinese, Arabs, Middle Eastern, Indian people than I have from whites, because of the desperation of the guys within the middle of the pyramid wanting to be at the top. Because again, I use the example of anime and Japanese culture and so forth, of how Japan, you have such crazy, you have just such amazing deep culture, but your video games and your anime and so forth is so steeped in paying homage and pretty much sucking up to the image of whites. 99% of anime characters are blonde and white with blue eyes. If that isn't psychological imprisonment, I don't know what else is. So once you have the guys in the middle of the pyramid wanting to be white, they view blacks as, oh my gosh, these guys, you're the lowest of the low.
The whole pyramid wants to be white, which is the trick.
Of course they do. No. Oh, you think the guys at the bottom, the blacks, don't want to be white?
Of course, that's the trick.
But basically, it's like that point that you made of where white people have created a psychology that now exists, and they don't even have to be there for it to still live on or still be instigated. So wanting that, let's say, even if you take whites out of it, there is still an element of racism within Chinese, within the Japanese, within the Indian, within blacks, whether it's colorism. What's it called? Guys wanting light-skinned girls, black people insulting and making fun of dark-skinned women. That whole psychology of a black person, who is dark-skinned, by the way, making fun of dark-skinned women, that is a racial element that was brought about by whites.
If we get rid of the white race right now, you think black women are still, well, let's not. You think black people are going to buy weave? You think that's going to stop instantly?
It is because it is so far embedded.
Because you don't need like once the idea is planted, put it this way. If I plant an apple seed in the backyard and I water it and I give it sun, after a while, I'm not necessary. Nature will just let the tree grow and do what it does until maybe something comes and knocks it down. But like an oak tree or something, if you plant that seed and you water it, it can live for 200, 300 years, well past the person who planted the seed. So white people are still here watering and giving racism sunlight and water and fertilizer and things. You remove them, the tree will still be there.
Oh, yeah.
No. It's not as simple as, oh, get rid of white. No, what has to change is the mentality of the people who
still exists.
Right. You have to change the mentality of the people who are getting it. And that's the only thing. You can't get rid of racism, I don't think.
No.
But you can change your mentality to.
Not think. You can't. There's no think about it. You can't.
You can change your mentality in order to not live with it, but just understand it and know how to move in it. You know what I mean? But yeah, read your comment.
Yeah. I want to even bring it on this one because this is just key. So I said the Japan situation is quite complex because they got nuked into submission. They viewed themselves as the top of the racial hierarchy. The nukes must have been traumatizing. Now, how much about
baseball is insane to me.
Wait, sorry, say again?
I said the idea that like baseball is one of the more popular sports in Japan is amazing to me in some ways.
So do you know? So how much do you know about the whole atomic bomb and the aftermath of the atomic bomb? Of what?
Yeah.
Because we did this quite a lot in our history class, and I think history was one of the few subjects that I was really, really into. Again, they never talked about slavery. There you go. So
Really?
no. Look, I'm in England. All we learned was William the First.
William Wilberforce.
Slavery. No, look, it's basically history is written by those by the conquered, as they say. So, even if history should actually be objective, but there we go. So, so before the atomic bomb, Japan were like huge history. These guys, remember, Japan were keeping the World War II thing going because they were so hard to be defeated based on the kamikaze warriors and so forth. And what they want to call it a cheat code or so forth, crazy insane. Because I was even talking to my Japanese friend's mother about it, about how even to this day, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they're still feeling the effects of that bomb because there's still babies being born with defects and so forth. So the aftermath of that is still there. And even if you go to Hiroshima or Nagasaki and you just see what the place looks like, it's what that atomic bomb did was just messed up. So Oppenheimer and his dudes, bruh.
Yeah.
So when that happened, America then made a conscious effort of promoting the American Hollywood psychology onto Japanese culture. So in all the subsequent years after the atomic bomb, you saw American products, because obviously they were trying to build bridges with Japan and so forth. So American products, American media, and the American psychology were put onto Japan. So right now, what you have is in Japanese media, you don't really see Japanese faces. I know what Japanese faces look like. I've been to Japan. Okay. So what you see is a hybrid of a Japanese likeness, but really a white psychology, and them pretty much worshipping white psychology. The most beautiful characters are white and blonde. The strongest characters, the main characters, are white and blonde. Sometimes if you see the black characters, they have huge, massive red lips and huge muscles and are cool or called DJ or something. So, and that's just the way you just call that psychological beatdown. So, for me as a black guy going to Japan, for most Japanese people, they look at me as, no, you represent ugliness. You represent a thug. But if a white guy comes in there, you represent beauty. Is it any surprise why most times, like the amount of couples I see of Japanese women and white guys is insane? Because Japanese women love and adore white men. Japanese men don't love white women because they view that as an element of beauty. And that psychology was imprinted onto Japan after the atomic bomb was dropped. The Japan before 1945 is very different from the Japan after 1945, and you see it in their media. So that's how we go. I mean, how much of Japanese culture do you really see, or do you see these elements that I'm talking about, or you don't really know too much about the Japanese media culture?
All I know is I know what is it, like sumo wrestling standard. We got like, the whole sumo war. No, what are the guys? The samurais, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm more maybe just kind of like the sports element. So, the J League, or the idea that like Japanese baseball players are really good and they come to America and they, whoa.
Bro, this is from the last comment. This, your reaction. This is a character on Dragon Ball Z.
But see, this is the thing. I was never allowed to watch this because it looked, I guess, too much like witchcraft, and my parents didn't allow it. And maybe like I don't watch anime, so I'm not really exposed to that, or manga, or something like that. So yeah, I'm not really exposed to any of that. Or
manga is the comic, anime is the cartoon. So this is anime.
Yeah, and I don't watch. Is it hentai? I don't watch any of that. So
yeah.
So yeah, I'm never exposed to this. But that's a Gollywog? Wally?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, yeah, like this is a character that was on
That's a
Dragon Ball.
minstrel. Right.
Yeah, so basically, this is a character on Dragon Ball Z called Mr. Popo, and the debate right now is this a knowingly racist character or was this just done out of ignorance?
Knowingly racist. Of course, man.
You know, so
okay. But I think what we have to deal with, and this it's maybe going a bit hidden colorish. But okay, is there anti-blackness in Japanese culture because they understand that like a lot of their forefathers and stuff came from Africa? That's just a question I put out there. I don't know the answer, but like they.
Oh, how do you mean their forefathers came from Africa? How do you mean?
I've heard stuff that like the first samurai were black, but I mean like the first everything is black. If you read everything long enough, there's somebody that's wrote down, yo, the first this was black. So I don't know what to believe in terms of who was first black this, first black that, but you know, I've heard things like that before. So maybe that's part of like their culture. Like they don't want to acknowledge it. It's like even things like if you go to like China and you say like if you look at Buddha and if pull up a picture of Buddha, if you would please.
Oh no, yeah, because I think this is the first kind of black samurai, Yasuke, the one and only African samurai.
Samurai. Damn. So that has black samurais.
Wait, so he said what? Buddha?
Yeah. Look him up, man. Click this dude. Yeah, top left. Click that guy and zoom in on the hair. Right. People say like, who has hair like that looks bloody and nappy other than black people? And that's an image that Buddha has all the way when you trace it all the way back. So the idea is you might change the nose, but the hair has stayed the same. Why does it have those like kind of circles that look like knots? Because like, the idea is like Buddha is like a black dude and they don't want to deal with it. So like they're mad racist.
Okay, so let's just sort of just round this off now, man. So before we go to our next topic. So my thing here is, see, I am not one to be like a victim mentality.
Whoa! Did you know that the samurai had a code that said you had to have black blood to be a true samurai? See, it's little things like that. Like I don't know if you can verify things like that, or if that's just shit that like I know. But yeah, I believe. I would like to believe, man. I would like to believe.
Oh no! Basically, this is stuff that I'd want to research. This is stuff I'd want to research. So just closing this off, man. Is like, look, I'm not one to be like about your victim mentality. This guy's racist. This guy's racist. But I'm a realist. I'm a realist, and my thing is, racism will always exist. There will always be people that will be racist. I will rather take my chances in hell with Lucifer than be stuck in Bulgaria in the middle of the night. So,
I'm not going that far, man.
Yeah,
give me Bulgaria, bro. Give me Bulgaria. If that's the choice, man. I'll make it work, man.
Okay, you make it work. I'm gonna try and cut the deal with Lucifer and say what's up. So
no.
But my thing though is okay. Bulgaria, here I come. Okay, me and Daniel. Okay, as long as I go with you, let's do it now, man. Double team. So my thing is, it's racism. And some elements will always exist. Don't try and think of destroying it. And the key thing here is, and maybe I'll leave it with this. Is it my duty to be a Martin Luther King and try and make a racist person less racist? Or make them see the way? Is that my duty? Is that my fight?
You see, I've always contended, and maybe this is the wrong assertion, but I've always said that it shouldn't be black people's job to fight racism. That's white people's creation, so it should be their job to deal with it. You create the monster.
Wait. Their job?
Yeah.
You think... Okay, so you think that we should be expectant of white people to sort of destroy white supremacy?
I'm saying I don't think black people have the facilities to do it. So the only people who can kill it are the people who invented it. You created the monster, you have to kill the monster. And until that willingness is there, it won't go.
Well, we could just say right now that ain't happening anytime soon, man. So look, man, let's roll through. And I think this is a real good one, man. Sportsmanship and rivalry, man.
This is a hell of a pivot, bro. But okay.
I know, man. Look, man, this is how we don't have hope sauce, man. We go all around. So some of you guys must have been watching the Last Dance, which is of course the Chicago Bulls documentary, not the Jordan documentary, the Chicago Bulls documentary. We've seen 4 parts so far, 4 parts of a 10-part series, and it's been really great so far, really, really good so far. So there's so many bits to pick at: the Jordan area, the Pippen, Rodman. But I thought what was really interesting was Bulls versus the Pistons, and that's rivalry, and the question of sportsmanship. So a bit of context. So again, I believe this is the 1990 Eastern Conference Finals, I believe.
1991.
1991. So obviously, previously Pistons have beat on the Bulls, beat them up, and the Bulls have not been able to really get past the Pistons, and them using very, very, very hardcore tactics. Think of like Madrid back in the day, and so forth. So they finally get over the hump, sweep them 4-0, and the Bulls, are waiting to sort of like shake the hands of the Pistons, who, this is the passing of the guard. Pistons were obviously coming off 2 back-to-back NBA Finals wins. So it's like, you know what? We are now the new era, which are the Bulls, and the old era of Isaiah Washington and so forth. We now have to now pass the baton over to
Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, Isaiah Thomas. So, but rather than shake their hands, they just walk off. And Jordan felt that this showed a lack of class and a lack of sportsmanship, that no matter what it is, you should still shake the hand of your opponent. And my thing here is this, is that I am with the Pistons. Even because, again, I was watching an interview with Isaiah Washington, and he said that the reason why he did that was because after Game 3, Jordan sort of disrespected the Pistons and disrespected the city of Detroit. And the Pistons felt slighted by Jordan's words. A dude who had never won a championship at this point in time, saying those things. So they did that for the city of Detroit because they felt that's how Detroit would have felt, not giving these guys any form of respect, even in the wake of a loss. But I push that to one side. And my thing is, I don't believe in losing graciously. I personally don't. It's similar to like the whole thing of like, rules of engagement. I don't believe in rules of engagement. You're at war. This is war. Anything goes. So if this is a rivalry and you hate each other, why should it be any different once the match is finished? Because you're in competition. You are in competition. And this was a serious, heavy rivalry. And again, people miss, and this is just where I come from, because people say, it shows like a lack of class. If even in the wake of a defeat, against a sworn enemy, you're not able to chill out, take a deep breath, and just shake their hand and say, you know what, good game. But for me, man, it's like, when I'm into it, I am very competitive. And if a fierce rival got one over me, and I'm still in a highly competitive mode, I don't want to shake your hand. Why? And even if you feel less of me or so forth, I'm like, no. That's just how I am built. So, in your viewpoint, do you think the Pistons were wrong? Were right?
I don't know. It's hard to say because was I alive? I might have been like 0 years old when that series happened, right? So Yeah, I was like months old, like 6 months. So I don't know the ins and outs of how culture was back then. So Isaiah Thomas seems to think that people just walked off. Like the Celtics did it to us, we did it to them. That's how it was. Jordan came from a different paradigm. He was like, well, we shook your hands the 2-3 seasons before, so you guys should have respected us in that way. And I guess you could say it could go either way, because maybe Isaiah Thomas is coming from a paradigm from the 1985, 86, and now it's 4 or 5 years later. And Jordan's like, well, we're not Larry Bird, we're not Kevin McHale, we're not Robert Parrish. We want a little bit more respect in that sense. So it's hard for me to say. I would probably have to be born in like the 70s to really tell you how things were, or the 60s probably to be more exact. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't like what they did. I think, you shouldn't like to lose, and maybe a handshake is like, oh, we're cool with it. It is what it is. Good luck in the finals, whatever. But I would have like not everyone did it. So if you look at like John Sally, for instance, John Sally went and he shook everybody's hand. He was like, yo, it's cool. And I don't think Jordan has any beef with him. John Sally, I think, was on the 95-96 championship team for the Chicago Bulls. So I don't think that would have happened if Jordan had real beef. And maybe, well, shit, I say that. Maybe Jordan didn't have a choice. Because Rodman was on those teams, and I think Rodman dipped. But,
he did.
But he was just taking cues from his vets. Like if Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, and Isaiah Thomas say don't shake hands, you probably don't shake hands if you're Dennis Rodman in 1991, because Dennis wasn't Dennis yet. And John Sally is his own kind of guy. Like he's not going to listen to anybody. He's going to do what he wants. So, yeah, I would have had to been there and kind of felt the energy. Like what happened in other series? Did Detroit shake everybody else's hand and they just didn't do Chicago? If it was the Eastern, what happened in the first round and the second round? I don't know. I'd have to go look. And if I looked and they shook the people's hands and they were just petty and didn't want to shake Chicago's hands, okay, then maybe Mike had an argument to be salty. But I just think do what you want, but don't be shitty when people are mad at what you did. So yeah, if you didn't shake hands then, like stand in that. Like, yeah, we didn't shake hands. It is, but you can't be mad at Jordan or Pippen or anybody else, Horace Grant, from just being like, yeah, fuck those guys, man. Like, you made your bed, now you lie in it.
No. See, for me, I go off the mindset here, because I think a lot of people, obviously, in the comments are saying like, it's you have to be sort of splitting the like. Someone saying, you have to look at be sportsmanlike and so forth. People say, screw sportsmanship. But my thing though is, it depends where your mind is at. You see, let's say if you're a John Sally, where you're over the hill, you've already won your championships, and you don't take the loss that personally, because even in the back of your mind, maybe after game 2, you're like, bro, these guys are way better than us. We've done our bits, we are done, and I don't even think we can even win this. So once you're in that state of mind, yeah, you'd go and shake their hands because you've already reserved your loss. But if you're still in competitive mode, you're still in we really want to win mode, and you go out there and you get beaten badly, you just want to just get off that court and just go away. So if, let's say, the roles were flipped, and like I was part of the Bulls, I would get that. And you know what's even deeper? That would even satisfy me even more. The fact that we beat this team so badly, they didn't even want to shake our hands and wanted just to get off the court. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is even sweeter. So let's say for you were in the Bulls' position. Would you feel insulted or angry that the Pistons didn't shake your hand, or would you actually have a greater sense of satisfaction that you beat them so badly they didn't even want to shake your hand?
I think I'd feel bad, like, because of what happened in the previous series where they beat us and we shook their hands. So if we show the gesture that, you beat us and we still have a level of decorum and class, if you want to put it that way, which is sometimes overrated, but in this case, Jordan might want that to be reciprocated. Yeah, I'd feel away. And the way they did it, where they just walked right past their bench, who knows what was said. Yeah. So yeah, I would feel away. And just because the Celtics did it to them doesn't make it right.
True. Two wrongs don't make it right.
Two
wrongs don't make it right.
So
yeah, no, I'm not. I mean, so basically, I think just going on rivalry and so forth. Because again, just watching that, I was like, wow. Because again, obviously, maybe you probably know this a bit more than me. I don't think that I've seen a rivalry that's heated or that's competitive in the NBA for like the past 6-7 years. Okay, since the Pistons and thingy, you can maybe argue, has there been a rivalry that's heated? And that's a possible because again, see, you could bring what's it called? Celtics and what's it? Is it you could say Celtics Cavs, Celtics Lakers, but I think that the reason why I liked that is the rules. And I think the change of the rules took away rivalry and took away that kind of competition from it. And for me, what makes sports so good is two opponents that hate each other on the floor. Now, for me, like, I would like that, if Jordan and Isaiah Thomas met, that they'd come together and be friends off the court. But I think what makes it so good is that just for these 90 minutes, for these 4 quarters, you hate each other because it just makes it far more enjoyable as a fan and as a sports fan. And I think that because during this time you literally had fights, so you could implement these roughhouse tactics on a Bulls and on their star player that you can't do so in today's game. Because the beauty about sports is these are my tactics and my strategy based on whatever limitations my team has, and this is what we're going to try and do to win.
Well,
so it's like whether it's fully defensive, whether it's tiki-taka, whether it's hack a Shaq, whether it's hack a Jordan, and so forth. That's the beauty of sports. That it's all about winning.
You want to get nerdy for a second?
Go for it.
The first free agent signing, unrestricted free agent in the NBA, was 1988. I think it was Tom Chambers. He went from Seattle to Phoenix or Phoenix to Seattle, one of the two. But it was 1988. Before then, the team you were drafted to was basically the team you had to stay with. Obviously, there were some exceptions here or there, and people did move teams when their contracts ran out. But like, free agency was a relatively new thing in the early 90s, So what happened was people became entrenched with the teams that they were at. So Jordan was a Bull for life until he went to the Wizards in later career. Pippen obviously didn't leave until he had to, basically. You had a lot of teams who were like those one club guys, basically, like the Karl Malones or up until he went to the Lakers and tried to ring chase. But like there were a lot of people who were just with that squad forever. So people didn't leave the Lakers necessarily. People didn't leave the Celtics necessarily. The Pistons necessarily. So those teams were just the teams unless there was a trade. And that creates a sense of familiarity breeds contempt in some ways. Just like the same dudes, the same teams, basically the same coaches. Like it's just that rivalry, that intense just dislike of the same team playing them all the time. Now, where you have players swapping every season, people are going to a new team. Like you might move a team from Cleveland. LeBron goes from Cleveland to Miami to Cleveland to LA. Like that wasn't happening back in the days. Like you wouldn't have Jordan going from Chicago then to LA, then to New York, then to some other team. Like people stayed where they were, and I think the idea of having kind of just the same people being in the same place, it just allows for just that dislike to kind of come to a boil, as it were. So when you say, has there been a rivalry as intense as that one? I don't know. I would think maybe like the Bulls and the Knicks had a really good rivalry in the mid '90s. The Pacers and the Knicks is a really good one, like Spike Lee and Reggie Miller going at it. Like the Lakers and the Kings in the early 2000s was a good one.
So you did a Knicks, Bulls, Celtics, Pistons, Lakers, Celtics, Lakers, Kings.
Yeah, Lakers, Kings. I'm not. Celtics.
No. Do you know this? Maybe it's because of the music and the dramatic music and the editing. I was like, oh man, this was really spicy, man. I actually wish I was like really fully active.
I don't really know about the Lakers Celtics in the 90s and 2000s. Even when they went to back-to-back NBA finals, it didn't feel like it didn't feel like the footage I watched from the 80s. No. Where it was like Bird, Mikhail Parrish against Kareem, Magic, Worthy, and you had like people clotheslining Rambis and all those kind of stuff that. It's not the same.
You know, the Lakers Celtics in the 90s and 2000s was just based on history. These are the two most storied franchises, the two most successful franchises. So they were just carrying the weight of what had happened.
But also, like in the 90s, they weren't good. Like they were okay. But from 91 until 2000, the Lakers aren't in the finals. The Celtics aren't in the finals. Like it really takes that Kobe Shaq era to come through. Then we have the lull. And the Celtics, they take a break from like 1988 to until they get the big three. You can maybe blame that on the unfortunate passing of Len Bias. You could blame it on them not getting Tim Duncan in the draft, him going to the Spurs, and that messes their whole thing up. But yeah, the Celtics, they basically take 20 years off, man.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it was a barren spell. So okay, so is there such a thing as a good loser in your view? Do you think a lot should be made about, this person lost graciously and we should sort of admire and champion someone who is a good loser? Do you think that's a thing?
I mean, I think it should be a thing. I think it's cool. Like if a boxer loses and he like loses his shit, like I don't like seeing that. Like I do like having respect for your opponent, because when not everybody's going to win. So I'm not going to win every time I play a game. I don't want you to like rub it in my face necessarily. I'm not saying you can't be happy and be joyous, but when you go like, there's like a certain level that you go past and it's just like, bro, like you're just rubbing it in. It's like, it's not cool at that point.
Okay, let me ask you this though. Mm-hmm. If let's say I was on that Nigerian team that lost to Denmark 4-1 in France 98. Horrible memory, nightmare. I still have nightmares still. That would be so painful, so heartbreaking. It would be impossible for me to bring myself to shake the hands of the Laudrup brothers, Sand, and so forth. I would literally just go straight off. Does that make me a bad person? Does that make me a poor individual? If this is so painful for me because of how much I wanted to advance and how much I wanted to win.
I mean, you've added the element of like a World Cup to it. I think that's different than clubs. Like really, the Pistons, you're professional basketball players. You're playing basketball for money. So you really like
that's a bit unfair. That's a bit unfair. You are right to an extent. Yes, this is clubs. You pay. There's money for it and so forth. But
if you lost the Champions League final, you'd still be pissed.
Wait. 'Cause I still think you're being slightly disingenuous because it's like you're right to a point. It's a club. You will win or loss, you will still be paid money. But something can still be said that if you're so entrenched in the city, in the lifestyle, in the community, you have a close relationship with the fans, you're in it. You're right in the trenches.
Okay.
You don't even the money isn't so conscious of you because the city and the people have brought you in so caring so much about making this franchise something based on where Detroit were. Detroit, the blue collar city, how this team is the only beacon of lights amongst all the crap that they have to now deal with. So once you have that, the money and salary isn't really at the forefront. That's for this time, for these 4 quarters, it's like, oh my gosh, we have boom, laser focus.
Like a World Cup match is single elimination. So you come to the match with the expectation that, bro, we might be able to beat Denmark, man. There's a chance. We have a really good team. Boom. You lose. It's heartbreaking. You lose. You have one bad performance. You're out. Somebody scores an own goal. Somebody gets a red card, whatever the case may be. The Bulls were up 3-0 in a series. Detroit should have already come to. They were planning this the whole time. I guarantee you. Now, if
they did it like so, you don't think Lembier did it at that point?
They were going to do this no matter what. Now, if it was Game 7 and Jordan hits like a game-winning shot with no time left on the clock and you're out, I can understand the heartbreak of losing a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals against one of your big rivals, But you got swept. You had ample time to come to terms with well, they're just better than us this year. Like, they've actually learned how to beat us. Or we're just a little bit past our prime. We have our 2 rings. It is what it is. So the fact that they did it in Game 4 after losing 4 straight games to the Bulls, it's like, nah, that's just they were just being dicks because that was true to their brand. They were the bad boys. They were the champions. And we're just going to walk off. Fuck y'all, basically. And if Jordan understands that energy, when they give him the iPad, I understand. I get it. Because he's like, they knew exactly what they were doing. And the only reason he's now is because he realizes 30 years after the fact that he was being a dick.
Okay, so should Jordan, and I don't know if this is true, should Jordan still harbor that hate towards Isaiah Washington now in 2020?
You keep calling him Isaiah Washington. That's so disrespectful, bro.
Yeah. Also,
Isaiah Washington is an actor that got kicked off Grey's Anatomy. Man.
I don't know, yeah, and also was actually really good on a Homicide: Life on the Streets. Isaiah Thomas. Oh yeah, I don't get it. So, do you still think that? Because for me, I'm like, first of all, what I really like about this documentary is
shout out Dick Wolf, bro.
Oh yeah. Great dude. Listen, what I really like about Jordan is that I just love. Yeah, he really is that dude. You know how you sometimes feel like
this is also Jordan being true to his brand as well, because he knows his brand is being a staunch asshole as well. So it's not in Jordan's nature to forgive Isaiah Thomas, even though I suspect Jordan might want to. Deep down, the dude that was crying at Kobe's funeral would forgive Isaiah Thomas in that moment. But when Jordan's on camera and they give him the iPad, he's like, I don't give a fuck what you show me. This doesn't matter. And he already predicts what Isaiah's going to say before he says it. And then Isaiah says it and he was like, you see? He gave that face like, you see? I was right. But Jordan has a brand too, you know.
Oh, no, because I think, like, look.
A reputation to uphold.
Okay, so do you feel then that Jordan is, quote unquote, acting up for this doc to make it more exciting? And to add a bit more spice.
He's being true to himself, but I do feel there's an element of I'm gonna be really Jordan right now. Like, you're gonna get the official Jordan that not a lot of people get to see. But I think he's probably nicer than if he was such an asshole. I don't think I don't think he would have accepted to do the documentary. But because he is, or because he isn't, maybe I think he accepted to sit down. And I think I've seen him in like 3 or 4 outfits now. So they did a lot of interviews for this. So it wasn't just like a one-time sit down, say everything in one go. Like they actually came back and went back and forth. So, because they probably did the original one where he's sitting down with like the brown liquor and the cigar. Then and then they went and interviewed Isaiah, and they were like, Michael, you want to come back and hear what he has to say? And he was probably like, yeah. So, yeah. He's embellishing the Jordanness, but it's still real to his person. So I wouldn't say it's a lie or anything.
All right. So basically, so what's there 6 left? Yeah, there are 6 episodes left.
6 episodes. Yeah.
So no, basically for me, look, I have really enjoyed it, and I like how basically it's put together really well. In terms of, I like the angle that they're going at it, which is that back and forth, past, future, past, present, past, present, past, present. Because I think they're telling an interesting story. And I don't know whether I want us to do this now, but maybe we should do it maybe after the next few episodes, which is this whole LeBron Jordan debate that is now sort of now heating.
I'm not joining anyone in a LeBron Jordan debate.
But that's sort of a separate debate. We'll
find Red or somebody who wants to. I don't know. I don't think Red watches NBA, by the way. So find Tosin or somebody. I don't know.
You guys, I'm sure, and I'll be pissed off if you guys didn't do this. That I want you guys to watch The Matrix before we do this. So hopefully you guys listen to me and you watched The Matrix. Now, I was shocked. I'm always shocked when other people have never watched the Matrix, and I was super shocked when Daniel didn't watch The Matrix, and I told and forced him to watch it. Because anybody that doesn't watch it, I forced him to go and watch The Matrix. So, what did you think of the film? Cold. Well, what were your views on the film? Watching the film?
Are you asking the people, or are you asking me?
No, you.
Like, I don't remember what I thought when I watched it. I feel like you sold it so high that when I watched it, I was just like, oh, it's cool. Like, I remember what I said when I watched it. I said, if I watched this when I was younger, it would have had a bigger effect on me. But because I watched it as like a 28, however old I was last year, as a 28-year-old human being, it didn't hit me in the same way that it would have hit like 17-year-old Daniel, So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, basically for me, like so
oversell it though. It's like, yo, this is gonna be the best cheesecake you ever tasted in your life, and it's like, this is cool.
Look, in all honesty, though, is like, see, my thing with The Matrix was, again, before I watched it, there was massive hype, huge hype, blah 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 blah. When I watched it, I didn't think it was that good. I was like, okay, well, because I'm an action movie junkie, I was like, okay, well, great action scenes, all cool. I have no idea what's happening in this damn film. But I then watched The Matrix Reloaded, and I love that. And I'm like, okay, I love this film. Now let me go and revisit this film now. So once I then revisited it, I was like, oh, I get it. This film is working on so many levels that I didn't see the first time. And I think and that's why it is always dangerous to sort of overhype something. Because again, it's like, once I say to you that, damn, man, this is the best thing ever, this is the greatest thing in the whole world, you're putting it on a high pedestal. So when you now start watching and you now see Keanu Reeves go, oh, whoa, cool, whoa, you're like, what is this garbage? It's like, but then it's like, I still say to you that, watch it again.
That's not happening.
Why not?
Because I don't want to watch it again.
No, because for me,
I did you a solid, bro. I watched it. I tried to take notes and try to understand what the fuck was going on. They had this dude coming like up out the soup or whatever. I was just like, nah, man. Like,
Okay, okay. What do you think the film's about? Okay, from you, what did you take that the film was about? Like, what do you think the film was about? What was it talking about? What message was it trying to put across in your view?
I'm not quite sure. You know, I know they were going for something kind of sort of deep in a sense. You know, where you have like, well, I don't want to spoil the movie for people who are listening to this that haven't watched it. You know.
Wait. Sorry. How many guys? Just very quickly in the live chats. How many of you people haven't watched the Matrix? Just tell me, how many of you guys haven't watched The Matrix? Because I'll be pissed off if there are people who still...
Okay, do it this way. Put a 1 in the comments if you've seen it. Put a 2 in the comments if you haven't seen it. So 1 if you've seen The Matrix, 2 if you haven't seen The Matrix.
But it's okay. So put a 1 if you've seen it. Put a 2 if you haven't seen it. 1 if you've seen The Matrix. Put a 2 if you haven't seen it. Because... Again, you're right. Not wanting to spoil it and so forth for the guys who haven't seen it. I feel that the film is saying so much about life and everyday life. And it's about perception and about...
F1.5.
Okay, so I think...
okay, so people have seen it, I guess.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So guys that say spoilers, we don't care. Okay. So then, in your view, what do you think it's about then?
Well, when he gives like, I think it's all about like that, the idea of like the red pill, blue pill, that idea of like, if you want to be awake and live your life kind of like without investigating things and researching things and doing things for yourself, live that life, like live on the outside. But if you really want the knowledge and you really want to do the investigation into what's going on deeper into society, then like I guess it's up to you to kind of discover that in yourself in some ways and just kind of go on the path that you need to go in order to become a more conscious individual, you know? And that's kind of what I took from it. And then you have like his teacher or his sensei and Fishburne kind of guiding him and how to do it. But then up to you at the end, it's up to you to really kind of do it yourself. Like, no, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like, you have to actually decide that you want to be the one, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean,
so that kind of whole idea. But
yeah, I mean, no,
at the end of the day, like, it's not an overly complex thing. I'm sure you could go on YouTube and somebody's just broken it down in like some wild level that you'd never expect. But for me, it's cool. Like, it's like cool. Like, if I watched that when I was 17, like I said, I would have been like, whoa, like, so give me the, what was it? Give me the red pill or whatever. Like, I'd have chose it. Like, cool. Or which one was the woke pill? Which one was the one he took? The red pill?
Yeah. No,
yeah, red pill
was the woke pill.
Yeah. So.
Oh, no. Do you know what it is? I know exactly what it is. I know you'll never watch Matrix Reloaded. I know that because this is already a chore to make you watch this. So the Reloaded is way more complex and way deeper than this. And that's why so many people hated the second one, because it was just a bit too complex for some people. But Reloaded, because when I first watched The Matrix, I was like, okay, yeah, like, okay, this red pill, blue pill, look, it ain't that deep. All right, it is way, okay, fine, cool. Yeah, cool action scenes, I'm out. But Reloaded just went way deeper into the stuff. And I was like, oh, so Reloaded combined with The Matrix, I was like, oh, this is talking about the concept of a Jesus Christ character. This is talking about dogma. This is talking about archetypes. This is talking about religion. This is talking about worshiping something. This is talking about your views and religious views being shattered. This is talking.
I can see that. I can see how they could. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, so basically, because once you get into Reloaded, it goes deeper into the concept.
So like Morpheus is like a John the Baptist kind of guy, where he's like.
Yeah, I mean, because like as Lawrence Fishburne says, no, Morpheus is mad. He's mad because his whole life revolves around this character of Neo and him of this heroic figure. His whole life is about this guy being a hero. Mm-hmm. Then when you now see what happens in Reloaded, it really contextualizes the dangers of religion, the dangers of putting all of your hopes and everything into this concept or into a concept. And what happens if that concept now sort of gets deconstructed? What do you now then do? Do you have a plan B? But for Morpheus, he doesn't have a plan B. This is his plan A, B, C, D to Z. So it is speaking so much, which is why the third film just goes off the rails. But the two films,
the first film goes off the rails.
Yeah, no. I feel look, so the less said, the better. But just for those two films, is really talking about the elements of choice, fate. Do we really choose in life? Is there really a choice in life, or is it just fate? I mean, before we go to questions, let me leave you with this. Do you think that in life we have free will, or everything is already predestined? Our choices are already made for us. We're just walking a path.
Do you ever think? I think it's Overton's window. Can you look that up?
Let me just take a sip.
Can you screen share that? I think it's Overton's window.
How do you spell it?
Overton, like Overton. What? I might be desperately wrong here. Ha! Bingo.
Overton is an approach to identifying the idea that define the spectrum of acceptability of governmental policies. Politicians can only act within the acceptable range. Shifting the Overton window involves proponents of policies outside the window persuading the public to expand the window.
So when you say, do we have free will? I think we have free will within particular confines, which would be this window that this thing talks about. So it says politicians can only act within an acceptable range. That's the window. But in order to move outside the window, the public has to persuade the window. Right? Now, if you consider the window our options just as people, you have freedom within that space. So yeah, you do have free will to an extent, but you can't go outside the window because society doesn't allow it. So the concept of free will, yeah, we have it, but you're only given a select amount of choices, and you can choose between 3, 4, 5 choices, let's say. When in reality, you should have more than 5 choices to pick from.
So for instance, if let's say I make a bad choice that leads to something bad happening, that is fully on me, not me just I was always going to have that bad choice. I didn't really have a choice. I was always going to give that, or I was always going to have that bad. I was always going to choose that bad option.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you can always do something, and you can always not do something. Whether or not. So, for instance, I don't know.
Because that's
you can always do something, and you can always not do something.
Go really religious with this whole thing. People may say that if you believe in this whole concept of a God and so forth, we are just walking a path. For instance, it's almost like
I think that's overly fatalistic, man. And that's like, yo, if I take my hands off the wheel will steer it for me, if I take my hands off the steering wheel, the car will steer itself. No, you have to have some input on where you're going. There's no way things just happen. And see, the idea of free will is God knows whether or not you will do something or not. That's a different question altogether. God knowing what you will do isn't the same as you choosing what you will do. It's so if I know what you're going to say next, I didn't choose it. You chose it. But I just know what you're going to say.
No, wait. No, but if you already know how am I making a choice, the future is already been determined. So my choice is an illusion. So even if I made a bad choice, I was always going to make a bad choice. I wasn't doing anything in real time. It's almost like, let's say, a piece of string. If you're saying that you already know, we already know, we can already see the entire piece of string. We can see the end of the piece of string and the beginning of the piece of string. If it is truly choice, we can see the beginning of the piece of the string, but we can't see the end of the string. The string is just continually forming, and this is all space as it's forming and forming and forming. But
if you don't know what you're going to say, then it is a choice to you. Because you could say whatever you want. I just know what you're going to say next.
But the future, but since you already know my choice, I still believe my choice is an illusion. I may believe that I'm truly making a choice of me going a certain way, but you already know what the result is. So you already know the kind of person that I am.
But see, the idea of religion is God knows the and the end of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of confusing. Well, it's like I don't know what they teach in other religions, but that's like the Christianity concept. It's God knows what happens from the beginning, God knows what happens at the end. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have no agency over what happens. It's just like, yo, I know what happens in this movie. But the guy still the guy still writes it.
No. But if he already knows what's happening at the end, he's just walking a path. It isn't a case of like, oh my gosh, whatever I will choose is going to determine this future that I didn't even know.
Just because I know doesn't mean that you.
Written. So since the future isn't written, all of my choices are pretty much like I'm confused.
Well, see, like, it's the idea of like if
and yeah, it's flipping scary, bro.
If you don't know what you're going to do next, you have a choice. What, independent of whether somebody knows what you're going to do or not. It's almost so let's say I dig a hole and or let's say I drill a hole in the sidewalk, right? And I put like a tarp over it. But it's kind of sort of obvious that you could fall through, but you don't. And I'm just sitting there watching this dude walk down the sidewalk. He has a choice whether or not he wants to go left or right, or whether he wants to look. I kind of know he's gonna go in the pit, but he could still look. He could still look, and maybe he'll go left, maybe he'll go right. And that's kind of how I feel this thing works. It's just like there are holes everywhere, and you can kind of sort of look down and choose whether or not you want to take the step or whether you want to go to the side.
No, I mean, but my thing though is that if, let's say, an evil person.
These are all bad analogies, by the way. I have no idea if I'm getting my point across.
but my main thing is that if I create someone who I know is going to make evil choices and make bad choices that lead to evil things, and I know this, why should that person take any responsibility for choosing evil things?
Say it again.
So if, let's say, I'm a creator and so forth. For instance, yes. I make these machines, these different androids.
Got you.
And I make this android and I input a program into this android, knowing that more times than not he's going to make evil choices to do evil things. But in this android's mind and in this android's world, he feels he's generally making choices, and he's generally choosing one or the other. So he feels that him making an evil choice is his free will. But I programmed this android to make evil choices. So the android has an illusion of free will because his choices have been predetermined, because I know what he's going to do because I already programmed him. So he doesn't really have free will.
Okay. I think I got you. Okay, this is a thing, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but I don't know how to word this without sounding like a heathen.
Wait, real quick. Wait. What is nihilism? Is that where you believe in nothing?
Ask George to define it. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, George, what does nihilistic mean? What does nihilism mean? Because I think it means you don't believe in anything. But yeah, go, continue.
Are we looking at this from like a god? Like a god exists that like knows our thoughts paradigm?
That's the angle I'm coming from. You want to use God, a creator, or so forth. Let's just say some concept.
You see, because I think I subscribe more to maybe like deism, you know, the idea that like God created Earth and then he just kind of stepped away and just like let it happen, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that like, yeah, we're existing, but like we make the choices, and whatever happens, God isn't really too invested in like what we do ultimately, you know. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. It's kind of just like, yeah, because this whole thing hinges on the idea that like there's a power out there who is super invested in every choice that we make, and he cares so much that he's like gonna, or it, whatever you want to call it, is gonna like, you know, he's just involved in everything that we do, right? I'm just kind of sort of like, if the universe is as big as it is, and there's so many stars and planets and galaxies and all this and that, the guy who created this is worried really, really in depthly about like Earth like that, and he's worried about like me, like my choices in that sense. Like maybe, yeah, sure, maybe, you know, don't put anything past God, but the idea that, you know, like we're all just kind of experiments, bro. It's just like, I don't know.
Basically, I would like to believe.
I don't think it's that deep. I think
I would like
I think we have the choices pretty much, and like in when I think of free will, I don't think of it from a religious point of view necessarily. I think of it from a societal point of view, which is why I made you look up that thing. It's like we have the choices in society, but they're only limited by. It's like it's like if you go, if you're a kid and you go to preschool or something, and they give you a toy, like you can only choose from the toys that they have inside of the preschool. You can't. You a PlayStation. We don't have that here. I want an Xbox. We don't have that here. All we have is Sega Genesis. Well, now you have to make do with what's on Sega Genesis, man.
Which I don't want, man.
Okay, or bro, like we have Dreamcast. But you know, be happy with that.
Look, I get where you're coming from. The fact of like our choices are limited based on the choices that we are given, because we only presented a finite array of options to choose from based on what society gives us. Is that obviously that's where you're coming from?
Say again.
We are only.
I was reading the comments. I'm sorry. I'm a bad.
The comments are hilarious.
I saw my name. You know,
only given a certain amount of choices based on what society gives us, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, no. So it is obviously yes. So it's limited to that degree. Now this is crazy. So it gets in a wormhole to the opposite end of the universe. The light traveling from the earth is showing you the past as things have already happened. You're just looking into the past. Free will is an illusion. Now that's just very trippy. Do you believe in wormholes?
Do I believe in what?
Wormholes. Which is where time is just effed up.
Has it been scientifically proven that they exist? I know black holes exist.
Yeah, no, because I know there was the new film talking about wormholes, but I believe that there is a concept of a place where you can go into the universe, and I think you can go into the past or the future. So,
bro,
time might be like a circle.
Like when he or she, I'm not quite sure, says light traveling from Earth is showing you the past as things have already. Like I get that point. Like. It takes, I think light travels at 186,000 miles an hour or something like that. So the light that gets here is like late. It takes sunlight, I think 6 minutes to travel from sun to Earth. So like for 6 minutes, we wouldn't know if like the sun blew up or something like that. It's some weird thing. Or like all the starlight we see is light that's traveled however many light years from that star to us. Something like that. So I get that point. But the whole wormhole thing, I don't know enough about that, though.
No. That's going deeply scientific, man. But look, it's basically that's just basically
8 minutes. 8 minutes. Sorry.
Oh, 8 minutes. Oh, okay. Wait. You've got 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not 6 minutes. 8 minutes.
Okay. You said that. So you said Daniel subscribes to the idea of God as a clock maker who creates the clock and leaves it be. So do you believe in the concept of like the creator, because he makes a watch and a watch is so detailed, that's evidence for there being a creator based on the complexity of the world?
How complex the world is, man. Because I feel like maybe this is the only way it works. But fine. Yeah. I mean, that's where I'm at with it right now. I mean,
Okay. Wait. So guys, last 8 minutes before we get out of here. So send in any questions. Send in any questions, and we're out of here in 6-7 minutes. We'll just do a few questions, and we're out of here in last 6-7 minutes. Last 6-7 minutes, man. But so Dan, so how was your self-isolation been, man, bro? In
fine.
we don't want to reveal where you live and all that kind of stuff, but wherever you are, how has it been?
I'm fine. It's good. I'm sleepy, but I'm good.
Okay. So now this is a bit trippy, and I think this is a large question. What do you believe happens after death?
I don't know.
I mean, put it this way, I don't know, but the further and further I go and live through life, the less I believe in the concept of a heaven and a hell. Of a heaven with angels with wings, and a hell with guys with red horns. And
so the idea of like, if there's heaven and there are angels and stuff, okay, so who's in heaven making the garments? And if there are people in heaven making the garments, does that mean like people get a salary? Anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm cool with that.
So you don't fear death?
No, of course I fear death. I don't want to die, but what happens, I'm cool not knowing until it happens, man. Like,
Because my thing is that, okay, this is my theory, maybe I'm right or wrong. This is only a theory. I believe that we probably will never know what happens when we actually die. It'll just happen, and it is what it is. Whether it's a new life, no life, nothing life, we just won't know, because we may just reset. And it's a crazy thing, because what I find scary is if it's a case of like, if we do die, friends, family, memories, everything gets wiped out. Now that does terrify me, Like
you have hella YouTube videos, bro. You'll be all right, man. People will remember you, dog. Like,
no. It's not about people remembering me. It's me not remembering anyone. So let's say I lose.
You're dead. Why do you need to remember things if you're dead?
What is it?
Why do you need to remember things if you're gone?
It still trips me up that even if I'm gone, it doesn't matter. The concept of that this thing called HH is no more, and I will not remember how I felt like when I watched Reloaded, when I saw Nigeria win the Nations Cup, how I felt like when I saw Morata score that winning goal against Liverpool. All these kinds of memories is crazy, man.
So there's a thing like you only die once the last person says your name or something like that.
Wait, I think it was Mike Tyson.
Was it?
No, because I think he said it on the podcast. He said that basically us living, what we want are for our names to be spoken. And he said he read somewhere, like he read this book that you die when the last person says your name. That's when you're actually dead.
Damn, me and Mike Tyson, bro. Together, man.
Yeah. So
minus the whole prison rape allegation stuff and the knockout strength.
No, I mean, it's It's Chris. Okay, last question, and then we're out of here, man. Last question. Have you guys explored any other Abrahamic religions?
I feel like I know a little bit more about Judaism than I do about Islam. But I'm just more exposed to Christianity just based on what it is, man. You picked the wrong question, by the way, man.
Oh, why? What should I have picked?
Top 5 most influential Black people. But no, but have you explored Judaism or Islam?
Nah, like for me, I think based on my experiences with Christianity, I've got a complex relationship with religion, you know.
I think I like the idea of Islam. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait, what? Sorry, say again.
I think I like the idea of Islam more than Christianity in some ways.
I've always had that feeling of like, Islam
but I don't like saying it.
more
You know?
welcoming to my race than Christianity does. Like Islam feels like if, oh man, you know, if you're Black, you're cool. Christianity has always felt like a very white religion where you're not really welcome if you're Black.
But it's the idea of like Christianity, like you need to go to somebody else in order to save you. Whereas Islam, it's like you can't really save yourself, but you just have to do a bunch of good things, and maybe God will look upon you. Well, you have to do like the 5 pillars of Islam, where you have to give and you have to go on fasts and you have to go to Mecca and all that kind of stuff. But once you get past all the pillars and stuff, it's just basically up to you and God. And you're almost like on a scale. Like, have you done more good things than bad things in your life? And if you have, then maybe you have a chance to get in. Whereas Christianity is like, you can be as fucked up as you want, but as long as you believe in Jesus,
and as long as you repent, cool.
Here's your ticket. Here's your ticket.
Can from Monday to Saturday, screw everyone over. Sunday, repent, you're cool. Like as I said again, I said to this dude who was like this huge Jesus guy, and I said, if this guy treats people good, gives people stuff and everything, and he doesn't believe in Jesus, does he go to hell? He says yes, he still goes to hell. I was like, all right, cool. So, top 5 most influential Black people. Number 1 is Malcolm X. Number 1 is Malcolm X.
Number 1 is Michael Jackson.
It's who?
Michael Jackson.
But it's Black Michael, White Mike.
It doesn't matter.
No.
Yo, they're all Michaels, man. Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan,
Muhammad Ali.
Quincy Jones and Malcolm X.
Yeah, you see, Martin Luther King isn't on this list.
Damn.
I don't.
Wait a minute. Okay, no.
But let me ask you this: why wouldn't you put Martin Luther King on this list?
Maybe I would.
But why didn't you do it initially?
Because I put Michael and Quincy. I think I'm gonna take off Michael, put Quincy, because Quincy's like the architect of the music. Wait a minute. Maybe musicians shouldn't be on this list.
But the question is influential. Influence is influence.
But I feel like politics is a little bit more influential than music. I'm not sure.
No. It should be, but that is what we think should happen, not what is.
I'm not saying Mandela, man. I can't bring myself to.
No. Nelson Mandela is on the, and this is for a separate conversation.
I'll say Winnie Mandela. I don't know about Nelson, dog.
So for me, Nelson Mandela, I will talk about that.
Okay.
For me, Nelson Mandela isn't on a list of top 5 most influential Black people because I'm not sure about how truly influential he was. But for me, like,
ooh, okay. Malcolm, Bob Marley, for sure. Wow.
There is basically, I'm reading a book about Black nationalism, and just I am forgetting some of the names on them, but there are some key names that this dude is bringing in with regards to guys who are trying to bring in Black and African consciousness. Marcus, could you put Marcus Garvey here as well?
Ooh, okay. Marcus Garvey for sure. You can bring that name
in a sense.
Say again.
Nat Turner.
Nah, yeah, no. Gandhi, come on, man.
Gandhi's not Black.
The GOAT black person is Yaya Sanogo.
What this guy says, you say, white people. No. To just put it very simply, the Mandela before prison and Mandela after prison are two very different people. And the Mandela after prison, I've got a lot of questions. And you have to look at what South Africa looks like now to really talk about how influential was Mandela really. When you look at how South Africa looks at right now.
See, I love Baldwin, but I don't think he's top 5. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think his reach is as much. Okay, so
okay. Okay, I got it. Okay. We're gonna go Malcolm.
Yeah.
We're gonna go Martin
Luther King.
Yep.
Come on, that's cheesy, but fair enough.
We're gonna go, of course, Malcolm Martin. You gotta start with the big hitters. Malcolm Martin, Marcus
Garvey, yeah. We see whoever led that revolt for Haiti should be in there.
Toussaint Louverture.
The Haitian Revolution.
Toussaint Louverture, man.
What is it? Wait, Haitian Revolution.
He's Googling, man.
Wait, how do you spell the name?
Toussaint. Just do L''O.
L.
Ouvere. Toussaint, not Lucent. Toussaint. Yeah, Louverture. Toussaint Louverture.
So Louverture.
Yep.
So it's also another was a Haitian. Wow, look at my boy, man, looking good. Well, obviously those are European clothes, but still.
You know what's fucked up? You know, this is a crazy story, man. This guy, see, there's Louverture and then there's Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who's probably somewhere on the first page. But Toussaint was a general in the French army, I think, or maybe not a general, but an officer in the French army.
He first fought for the Spanish against the French.
He went to Haiti and led the revolution, and then Napoleon sent him back to France on a deal, like, yo, you come to France and we'll hash out a deal. They put that dude in prison and he died in prison, man. So like they fucked him up, man, because they were pissed off at what he did.
Wow.
Do they have click death? Like, I know that's morbid, but like later years or whatever it is. Arrested imprisonment.
Oh wait, where is that?
It's the last thing, like 2.8. Yeah.
Responsible.
While they took him under the auspices, like they brought him under the auspices that, yo, we're gonna do a deal, we're gonna work a deal. They just put him in prison, and it says he died 7th April 1803. Suggested cause of death include exhaustion, malnutrition, pneumonia, tuberculosis. I'm skipping epilepsy. I'm not sure. Yeah, and then in his absence, Jean-Jacques Dessalines led the revolution until its completion. Yeah. But
so he really instigated the whole revolution then.
Yeah, man. The Frenchmen,
bro, all those guys are wild, man. All the guys are wild.
But that's a good shout, man, because the Haitian Revolution was very key.
No. Basically, this book I'm reading, actually, the book by Kende Andrews, Black Nationalism. Man,
it broke the back of slavery in the Caribbean to an extent. And it made slavery in the United States worse. Because they were like that, and the Nat Turner thing, I think in 1831, that made it really bad. Because they were like,
they fully clamped down.
Yeah, they were like, you know what? Nah. Could a comedian be in the top 5?
No.
Like an Eddie Murphy or
no
Richard Pryor or someone like that?
I mean, I'd want to, but come on, man. Let's.
I'm just thinking on like culture.
So our list is Malcolm, Martin, Garvey, Mr. Louverture.
And we need somebody from Africa, man. Who's the most influential African? And obviously it's stereotypical to say Mandela.
No. We're not saying Mandela's not happening. You know what? I was. You could see. I mean, what was it called? Haile Selassie, the Abyssinian leader.
I was thinking Haile Selassie in relation, but then I settled on Bob Marley. But maybe Bob Marley was so influenced by Rastafarianism, which is a result of Haile Selassie the First, that maybe he makes the list. And I think he beat the Italians.
Wait. Who is this? The Haile Selassie.
Mm-hmm. Haile Selassie.
See, I was gonna say, but this is maybe more local, which is Ken Sarawiwa, based on
That's a good shout. Yeah.
what he did in Nigeria and how he was executed based on him
R.I.P.
fighting against the
Shell Oil Company bastards.
Yep.
Nigga.
Haile Selassie.
Haile Selassie.
Hey, look at those badges. God, Lord. Jesus.
I feel like he beat the Italians. I'm not sure. Maybe he lost the Italians.
Wait, let's see.
But conflict with Italy, mobilization progress of the way. Maybe he was exiled. Because for the longest time, they weren't Mugabe, King Tut. Yo, Imhotep, dog. We gotta put Imhotep, man. I know Hotep's become kind of wild, but Imhotep, Fela Kuti. That's influence. I am Hotep.
Fela Kuti. Yes, that's our fifth. Yes, that's our fifth. Yes.
But no. Imhotep, man. I am Hotep. That's a nigga, bro. That's.
Is this the Egyptian? Oh man, my pharaohs, man. Yo, man, check it out, my pharaohs. They were black. They were black, by the way. Chill. They were black.
Read his shit, man. Read it.
So Imhotep, the one who comes in peace, was an Egyptian chancellor to the pharaoh Joseph, probable architect of the Joseph Step Pyramid, and high priest of the sun god Ra at Heliopolis. Very little is known of Imhotep as a historical figure, but in the 3,000 years following his death, he was gradually glorified and deified.
Basically, this guy was like the first polymath, it's thought, or like one of the foremost polymaths.
Why? What's a polymath?
Polymath is somebody who's like really good at math, science, history, writing. They're just like really, really good at everything. So, yeah.
Wow. That's the Greeks.
So yeah, this guy's probably like the first genius, or the first documented genius. And he's Egyptian, all that kind of stuff. And they made him, like I said, they made him like a god because he was so smart.
So had risen to that of a god. You know what I've always said again?
Without him, Western civilization does not exist.
Wow. You see, that is another huge topic, which is Egypt. Because I've said that, look, if I had a time...
We've talked about that so much, man.
I know, no, but if I had... Okay, look...
Joseph Kony, stop.
Okay, look, final thing before we get out of here. Final thing before we get out of here. If I had a time machine, I want to go into two eras. First era is, let's just say, 600 years into the future. What does racism look like? Do I still get called a coon in 500 years? And my second thing is to go to Egypt. I just want to see what life would be like back in those days.
We don't have a black woman on the list, bro. We don't have a black woman on the list. Damn.
You have to ride with Suri. Ooh! What's her name? Mary Seacole.
She's not top 5, man. Chill.
So you're saying that what's it called? Oh gosh, the lady who sat at the front of the bus.
Rosa Parks isn't top 5, man.
Okay, so which woman makes top 5 then?
I don't know, but I'm thinking like, do we not include a woman in the top 5? Michelle Obama, chill. And Frank.
What the hell? This one said Anne Frank.
Oprah.
There is no way in hell.
You see, I would put Winnie Mandela ahead of Nelson Mandela.
Probably, yeah.
Without question.
Oprah isn't sniffing this list. I think Mary Seacole is a good shout.
Harriet Tubman. Okay.
The pyramids predate Western civilization by
Top 5 is too much for people that have been here for 10,000 years, bro. 20,000, 30,000, depending on who you listen to.
No. Bro. I still say how those dudes build those pyramids without any cranes and no technology, no blue.
They had technology of their day. We just don't know what it is, man.
Yeah, but the technology wasn't. How do you build a pyramid with no cranes? Please tell me how.
How do we know they didn't have cranes? Just that they were made of wood, like a pulley system or something like that. Wendy Williams. Don't kill me.
Oh. look, you have to put in all the videos of like Real Housewives of all about that.
At least nobody's saying porn stars, man.
You know,
as your chat tends to devolve into that.
If aliens didn't make those pyramids, man, don't listen to what the white people tell you, man.
So, okay, what's our top 5, man?
So,
Martin, Malcolm, Marcus Garvey,
Marcus Garvey, Imhotep,
and Toussaint Louverture.
No. We have to have a woman.
Damn.
We have to have a woman. So basically our choices are Mary Seacole, Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks. And what's the name of that? The lady of the Underground Railroad.
That's Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman.
Hatshepsut, Egypt's queen who would be king. I don't know, man.
Hatshepsut.
Fela Kuti's mother, perhaps? I don't want to include somebody's mom just because they're somebody's mom, you know?
Hatshepsut was the
Martin
fifth.
Lawrence.
Martin Lawrence was the second. You got female pharaoh. The first being she was the second historically confirmed female pharaoh.
I think we got to go Harriet Tubman, man.
Yeah, I mean, like taking everything into account.
I'm not sure if Cleopatra was black, man. I'm pretty sure Egypt was raided by that point.
As much as I want to claim her, I think she was Greek, bro. Yeah, I think she was Greek. So yeah, I don't think blacks can claim that. Yeah, so yeah, look. Okay, so Malcolm X.
Yep.
Martin Lawrence, Marcus Garvey.
What did you say? Nigga said Malcolm X, Martin Lawrence.
Let's do that again. So Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
Marcus Garvey.
Yep.
Imhotep.
Yep.
Harriet Tubman.
Yep. That works for me.
And I think I would still argue. I may argue Fela Kuti over Imhotep.
I could argue Muhammad Ali over Imhotep. I could argue there's something like we're trying to boil it down to 5. I mean,
basically for me, I would personally put Fela Kuti over Imhotep because I've got to put a Nigerian there. So I would argue Fela Kuti over Imhotep.
Listen to this nationalism, bro. This right wing Nigerian talking about Fela. Tupac. Tupac's actually not that bad of like if we're talking influence.
Basically, if we're talking the conscious Tupac, that's a great shout. Not the gangster Tupac, the conscious Tupac. That is a great shout, man.
I mean, like top 10 might be easier because then we can include like Toussaint, then we can include Muhammad.
Or should we list top 5 most influential white people?
Bro, why is that funny? You got like what's okay.
Frank Sinatra,
Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar,
Mussolini. No, it doesn't count as white.
Winston Churchill, John Locke, maybe John Locke, and damn,
Celine Dion.
Celine Dion. Shaka Zulu. Oh man, he's top 15 maybe. Einstein. Yeah, we can give it to Einstein.
No. Einstein might be the most influential white dude, though.
Shaka Khan and Shaka Zulu.
Oh man.
Martin Luther. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah.
The
So,
original.
we're not doing top 5, but if we're doing a top 5 most influential white dudes, then yeah, you have to say Alexander the Great.
Boris Johnson. Christopher Columbus is nowhere near top 5, bro. Actually, you know what? He might be, actually.
Wait, who? Christopher Columbus?
Yeah. Like an unfortunate.
Yeah, for all the wrong reasons. Look, the guy discovered flipping America, so.
Discovered in air quotes. Marilyn Monroe. Patron saint of thoughts everywhere. You said
actually, was Marilyn Monroe like the first Kim Kardashian stroke Paris Hilton?
Bro, you know what we forgot with black people?
Well,
we got to take Imhotep off and we got to put Jesus Christ on. Top five most black influential people. You got Martin, Malcolm, Marcus Garvey, Harriet Tubman, Jesus Christ.
So you're saying Jesus was black then?
Clearly, that's what I'm saying. hair of wool, feet of bronze. Where else?
Wait. Actually, okay. So should we? So is Dr. Umar a shout or no?
Jesus wasn't black. Okay, but why does Revelation say he had hair of wool and feet of bronze?
Hair of wool.
How come Jesus could go hide in Egypt when Herod was trying to kill all the babies? If Jesus wasn't black.
No. People have put it this way: Jesus wasn't white. Fact, he wasn't white. Now people have thought Jesus may have had olive skin, so he may have been Arabic.
Do Arab people have woolly hair? I'm just going by what the Bible says. I mean, people say listen to the Bible. I'm just saying. We can include Jesus,
Yeah, I mean, look, man. So look,
and if Jesus is black, wait a minute, God's black. Because the original man, everybody considers to be black, and the Bible says that in the beginning, God said, "Let us make man in our own image and in our likeness," which means I don't have to connect the dots for you guys. So it's Martin, Malcolm, Marcus Garvey, Harriet Tubman,
Jesus,
and God.
God.
It's from the. I'm kind of playing around, but
wait. Jesus, I don't think Jesus was Jewish. Weren't the Jews against Jesus?
Click George Lyle's comment, bro.
So if God created man in his image and black people have factually existed the longest.
Exactly.
But why is God represented as an old white dude with a beard in paintings?
The original point of our broadcast.
So if God created man in his image and black people have actually existed the longest, look, it's wild, bro. Because see, what I've always said is that how that would change the conception if you walked into these churches and you just saw the angels, saints, and so forth all black. and you just heard Jesus presented rather than Jesus being played like a white. Because do you know what's so funny? Every time people see Machine come up and do this stuff, they say, "Oh my gosh, he looks like Jesus." Like people, they say like him and like Batistuta look like Jesus because that's. So if they actually saw Jesus was this dark-skinned black dude that looked like Lukaku and so forth, guys. People's conceptions are like, "Oh, whoa!"
If Jesus looks like Lukaku,
wait, let me go deeper. Let me go deeper. If they show Jesus as black, do you think white people in the South, in Mississippi or Tennessee, or worship?
You know what's wild? and we can leave here.
Yeah.
And this is a sad state of affairs. Okay, if Jesus was black, black people wouldn't want to worship him. And that's the sad reality of the matter. Because people will argue with you with like the baddest student. No, that's Jesus. That's what he looked like. The pictures that people grow up with in their house.
No. That no. For me, that is like a perfect segue or a perfect link back to the original point. If it was confirmed Jesus was black, a lot of black people would just not accept that.
They'd be like, no.
Because they're so entrenched in the thing of beauty and perfection being why like Jesus looks like Lukaku or Eto.
You gotta chill out with that.
No, but that's what I say. If they say Jesus literally looks like Eto, Lukaku, or like Drogba, guys be like, no, sorry, no, we're not having that. These things
Jesus
of beauty. We need Brad Pitt, we need Tom, we need blonde blue eyes. Guys, look, that is the perfect way to end this. Guys, it's been swell. Danny, thank you so much
man. No problem.
for doing this, man. I'm gonna have to bring you back again on one of these, bros. So
problem.
Yes, I'll be calling you again.
We have an extra to record, by the way. I don't know when, but
yep.
sometime in the next couple of days.
All right, guys. Peace out. Stay true, and we will see you guys